What's up, Flex Gang? Let's learn to have mechanics like Tiggy. Here's my mouse and keyboard settings. So here we are when I change settings real quick. Controls. This is my sensitivity at the moment. I'm running 800 DPI on my mouse. So if you run 400 DPI or 1600 DPI, the rule is if you double the DPI, you minus 15 from your sense. Every 15 you go up in game is double the sense. So if you run 400 DPI, this is the same as 47. And if you run 1600 DPI, this is the same as 17. This 32 general sense. So if you don't want to change DPI, that's how you can match up your sense to mine. I use the universal sensitivity for all scopes. This is because I don't want to have any fluctuations in my muscle memory for aiming. The reason I'm using such a low sense at the moment is because it's just much easier to control the recoil. I used to be a massive fan of just keeping your sense the same across the board, and I still am. I think that that would be the best way to go about any shooter that wasn't PUBG. But in PUBG, I just think the advantages of having such a ridiculously low ADS sense means that you can just have perfect control to the point where the ADS sense is so low, it's impractical to have your general sense be the same. So that's why I am running different senses here, as much as I wish I could run the same. Secondly, I'm running 1.11 vert. This is because I'm using stretch res. And basically, I think it helps my muscle memory if I run 1.11 vert for flicks and things like that. Coming from native res to stretch res, if I move my mouse diagonally on my mouse pad, my crosshair will move diagonally on my screen. It won't be like slanted because of the resolution. So 1.11 is the vert sense multiplier for me that I prefer most. If I played native resolution, I would probably run 1.0 vert. Now we're gonna jump into the key bindings. This stuff is all super important because this will affect your gameplay from top to bottom, how fluid you are with things. It makes a bigger difference than you think. My thinking when it comes to my key binds is I never want one finger to be doing two things at once. And I never want my combat binds to influence my aim. So like, for example, hip fire, a lot of people use it on the side mouse buttons. I would highly recommend against that because it will shift your grip right as you go to aim. So stuff like that is really important. So that's kind of my philosophy when I'm approaching my keybinds. So I use WASD, all very standard movement. Walk, left control, shift, sprint. Jump only and vault only. It's really important to distinguish these two. Very newbie mistake to leave jump vault on the same key. So I just use spacebar and V. Crouch, I use C. And importantly, I use crouch on hold. You can change it here, controls and then key input method. Crouch on hold. Actually, the only thing I have on toggle is prone. So my map, even my ADS, everything hold. This basically just means I can be really fast. I can spam crouch faster than other players. And I think that that's really important. So I press C with my thumb a lot. It's very comfortable for me. So big fan of the C crouch bind. I would not use left control because it makes it hard to press sprint at the same time. Everything else, very standard. Default stuff, toggle perspective I never use. Swimming, who cares? World map M, mark my location, insert. Center minimap, I leave this on 6. I use this a lot in comp, I don't use a lot in pubs. 6 is just pretty easy for me to press. I have some weird free cans, so I can reach a lot of the keyboards. So I like 6. Quick marker I've bound to left click. This is basically just the compass direction indicator. So whenever I'm shooting at something, my teammates can immediately tell the direction I'm shooting in and they can hit follow-up shots. This is really handy for comp. This is actually like one of the nicest quality of life changes that they ever brought out. This is just something that you should do for your teammates no matter what. Bind quick marker to left click every time. It's so important. This isn't the same as the radio message that leaves a mark on something. This is actually like just a directional ping. So at least I can tell where you're shooting, you know? I'm a little weird here. I use I for inventory. That's just because I've always used that since the Arma 3 days. Arma 3 was the game I played for 4,000 hours before switching to PUBG. So one of my favorite games of all time. I was my inventory key in that. So I actually reach my thumb across my keyboard. We'll get a shot of that in a second. But so yeah, when it comes time to loot, I just reach my thumb across and I press I. It's a bit of a weird thing I do as a pro player. I've just always done it and I haven't changed it. And honestly, I'm pretty used to it now. It feels good. Settings, I always delete this key from O because O is the default button to open up settings. It's right next to I. I'd press it accidentally, delete that immediately. Push to talk, I bound to right alt because T is a very valuable keybind. So get that thing out of there. I want to use T for something that's actually valuable. Right alt, I can press with my thumb. Push to talk is not relevant when it comes to. So secondly, aim. This is the hipfire key. I double bound this to control. So whenever I'm walking or I want to do the hipfire, I just press control with my pinky finger. The reason I bound it to this is because the only other button I press with my pinky is shift. And I'm never going to be trying to sprint at the same time that I'm trying to hip fire. I'm never going to be trying to sprint at the same time I'm trying to walk. So binding it to control means I can just press that whenever I want, have good ADS timing. Hip fire timing, I guess. Primary weapon, 1, 2, 3, melee weapon 4. Throwables, this is just for like C4s, blue zone grenades, who cares? Cycle firing mode, default. Peek left, peek right, still Q and E. I use these default, no real issue with that. I know some people like to switch them, but I don't really see the value. Holster weapons, I bound to T. That's another armor bind I used to use. X by default is fine. I prefer T though. Here's another thing you want to do. So you want to separate all of the binds for grenades that you have. By default, 5 pulls out your throwables and G pulls out your frag grenade, and there's a bunch of different binds like that. Basically, I just separated them out so that I could remember it. I started by making 5 my frag grenade and G my smoke back at the start of the game because those were both different grenade keys. I thought I may as well make it like that. This is back when Molotovs and stun grenades were not useful. So when they buffed stun grenades and Molotovs, I was like, crap, I need to find keys for them. So I just put it as the next 2 keys I could think of. I wasn't using anything for tab because tab is, I don't use it for inventory. So I bound Molotov to tab and I bound stun grenade to N. And I've just used that ever since. 5NG tab for my 4 grenades. The radio message wheel. This is a super important com button. This is basically for pinging stuff on the map. I use caps lock for this because I don't like using middle mouse. This is, again, I don't want to be pressing or changing my grip on the mouse as I'm going to shoot something. It's really likely that I'm going to go shoot someone at the same time that I want to mark them. So I'm going to bind that off of middle mouse. I really don't want that on middle mouse. I want it to be on my keyboard so I can press it with my left hand. Don't have to change my grip on the mouse at all. Can aim and shoot. So caps lock is a very valuable keybind. A lot of people don't use it because it's a caps lock. It triggers their ACD that they're turning caps on and off, but it's actually in a very valuable position to the keyboard. So it's important to use caps lock here. And then just med binds, regular stuff. I have painkiller and energy on my side mouse buttons because I'll never be doing that at the same time I'm trying to kill someone. The rest of the stuff is I can reach across my keyboard XYH for healing. I get asked all the time about my drive-by keybinds, and that is because I was the pioneer. I was the guy that thought of this, and I'm very proud of it, you know? EQ for seat swaps. That is like the #1 thing. Everything is default, except for toggle ignition I bound to V, just because it's easier for me. But the most important thing when it comes to the driver stuff is this, yeah, right here. So changing seats around the car. By default, it's control 1, 2, 3, 4. This is extremely hard to do. It's hard to press while holding W so binding this to Q, E, is really easy. I basically thought about it as like lean right, lean left. So I'm gonna bind seat 2 to E. So when I press E, I go to the right side of the car. When I press Q, I go to the left side of the car, seat 3. And then I used to use tab as the driver seat. I bound it to Z recently because there was a bug, not have any weapons when I got out the car, when it was bound to tab. So I bound it to Z, and then seat 4, I made C. So it's kind of like a square. The way Shrimsy does it is Q is driver seat, E is seat 2, Z is seat 3, and C is seat 4. We have the same binds, but he does it backwards. And he basically, if you actually look at your keyboard, it's like a car. It's like passengers. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Front left, front right, back left, back right. So yeah, it's just, these are really good binds. There's no downside to using this. Everyone should be doing this. It makes it super easy to drive by. So now we're gonna go over my software and my hardware. This is the software. So this right here is the SteelSeries software that I use for my keyboard. This keyboard is really cool because you can have different actuation forces for different keys on the keyboard. So if I click on it and I go to actuation here and I look at the Q key, for example, I can make it so if I put 0.2 grams of pressure on it, the button will actuate. And same with E and same with C. So Q, E, and C for me, 0.2 grams actuates the key. For WASD, 1.4 grams of force will activate the key. This basically means that I'm not gonna accidentally move. On F, it's 1.8, so I don't F out of cars as easily. But this basically means that when it comes to lean spamming for me and crouch spamming, I'm just very quick. I'm as fast as I can be. The response time on this keyboard is really good. So yeah, I basically have my bind set up like that. Every other key is just 1.8, nothing special. But for the movement keys and for the lean keys, those things that you're not gonna kill yourself by pressing, absolutely the lowest actuation force is gonna be really helpful there. Next, we'll look at my Logitech G Hub software, using the Pro X Superlight at the moment, and basically just 800 DPI, 1000 polling rate, very standard stuff. The higher your DPI is, the less input lag you have on your mouse. Now that would have been a controversial statement for a while, but a YouTuber actually proved it. If you have 1000 Hertz polling rate on your mouse and you run 400 DPI, you are giving yourself like 12 milliseconds of input lag. And if you run 1600 DPI, you give yourself like 3 milliseconds of input lag. The reason is that if you move your mouse really fast, dots per inch, like if it's 400 dots per inch, there's like a delay before you hit the first like movement quota for the mouse to like report it to the PC kind of thing. It's very complicated, but I would recommend if you guys do some research, you would find that 800 DPI, 1600 DPI actually have less input lag than 400 DPI, and they do track smoother. So that's why I'm running 800 DPI right now. A lot of people are running 400 DPI, a lot of pros, and I think that this is because it kind of acts like pixel smoothing. It doesn't feel overly sensitive when you run 400 DPI. It feels very like simple. If you move your mouse horizontally, it'll always almost draw a perfect line. Like if you go into Paint and you try to draw horizontal lines with 1600 DPI, it's really hard. Versus 400 DPI, it's very easy because of the the sensitivity. So this is the physical aspect of my keyboard. It's a little strange. I made some altercations to it. A lot of people get freaked out when they see it. It makes them uncomfortable, but the reality is I think it's the best of every world. So this keyboard is the Apex Pro TKL by SteelSeries. I bought it because they branded themselves as the fastest response time keyboard on the market. Basically, I put a set of custom keycaps on it that are white. Don't think that you're buying the wrong keyboard if it's black. The big thing that I've done is with my new custom set of keycaps is I put the control key over the spacebar. This is one of the most vital changes I would recommend to anyone. On any keyboard, any gaming keyboard, you can take the right control button off and replace it in the spacebar button. I happen to have an extra keycap because I bought more keycaps, so I didn't have to sacrifice this right control button. For anyone at home, I would highly recommend shifting your right control key to the spacebar key because this allows you to spam crouch on C with your thumb very easily. You don't have to worry about getting in the way of spacebar. If you ever are going to vault, you can vault easily. It just basically reduces the chances of you panic jumping, and it lets your hand be in a more relaxed position. You don't have to like curl up and curl over the spacebar, right? You can just be like relaxed, stretched out, and chill. It's very comfortable. Obviously my keyboard's on an angle, as most elite gamers are. I don't like my keyboard too angled. The only reason I have it on an angle really is so I can reach I with my thumb, so I can open my inventory because I have that goofy ass mind. Really, that's preference. I think that the most important thing is that your arms are mirrored. If you're going to have your keyboard on an extreme angle, I think that that's naturally going to make you want to play with your mouse hand facing inwards. And I think it's best to have your mouse hand straight. So I like sitting symmetrical. I like my arms to be the same distance away from both sides of my body. And that way I'm just comfortable. I'm symmetrical. I can sit up straight. I'm a little OCD when it comes to that, to be honest. Maybe not OCD. Maybe that's not the right word. I'm a little anal when it comes to that. I think that it's very important to be symmetrical. I hate seeing people that have one bent arm in on a keyboard and then their other arm stretched out. You know, you play like that for 3,000 hours, you're gonna have shoulder problems. So yeah, definitely make sure you take care of yourself in that regard. Keep your arms symmetrical. I use the Logitech G Pro Super Light. The reason I use this mouse is because it is super light and wireless. Honestly, I'm a huge Zowie fanatic. I love the shapes of the Zowie. I actually think this mouse is terribly uncomfortable. It feels like I'm holding the back of an egg. Honestly, like my hand, it just doesn't fit in my hand. My hand wants to slide off it, but it's wireless and it's lightweight, so the technology is just too good for me to refuse. I can't keep using the Zowie until they put out a competitor or something that's on the same level as this G Pro. Custom lethal gaming gear skates on the bottom of them that I'm testing out right now, but they feel very similar to the default skates. So if you're rocking the default skates, don't feel pressured. It's not a big difference. These are just custom ones that I'm testing out for them to see if we like them or not. My mousepad is the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn Pro. This is my favorite mousepad of all time. I used the Zowie GSR for a couple years and I did love it a lot, but honestly, after trying out like 50 different mouse pads, this one is genuinely my favorite. This is not the Pro version, sorry. This is just the Saturn. I like the firm base because it lets me track across the whole mouse pad. My mouse doesn't like sink into it, if that makes sense. And when I'm running low sense on PUBG and I'm doing these big flicks, it's really important that I have that smooth glide. I'd recommend this mousepad for literally anyone. It's got the speed, it's got the control, it just feels fantastic. And honestly, I set all my aim lab records on this thing probably 8 months ago. This is all before we got sponsored by them. So don't think I'm selling out here. I genuinely loved this product and I messaged them on Twitter and I spoke to them and then we arranged a deal because I knew I'd be using this thing for a long time. I've just loved it ever since I copped it and I'd highly recommend it to anyone out there. It's not too expensive. You guys can order it on Lethal Gaming Gear's website. I'll put the link in the description. I do have a 5% discount code, so it does help me out and I am selling out a little bit, but I'm genuinely dead serious when I say that I love this product. Way before there was even a chance of me getting sponsored by them, I was using this thing. This thing is the best freaking mousepad. I freaking love it. Give it a look. 100% recommend. Absolutely. It is goated. So I guess we'll get into my grip now on the mouse. Holding this uncomfortable eggshell. It's quite interesting. I basically, because it doesn't fit in my palm whatsoever, I just kind of fingertip it, just like that. At the base of my fingers, my ring and my pinky finger, right there, I just try to line that up with this ridge. There's a very subtle ridge on the right side here. So I put them around the side and then I just wrap them around the mouse. And then I let my thumb and my middle, my index fingers all just settle on top. But the main part is getting that right side of the mouse right. I just move it around a couple times till it feels comfortable. This mouse is terribly uncomfortable. I don't like this mouse, but it's wireless and it works. I've been hitting pretty good shots with it, to be honest. And as much as it pains me to say, I'm definitely gonna keep using it. Zowie can release something to compete with it. One thing I will say that I've enjoyed about the Logitech though, is the click latency is really low. It feels extremely fast. If someone peeks me and I have a shotgun, or if I'm just like ADS shooting, snap firing, the clicks are so fast that it just feels like I'm literally beating someone because my mouse is faster. That is the biggest advantage I would say that it has over Zowie, but I wouldn't feel pressured to buy it or, you know, shift to it if you're comfortable with your mouse. That's very preference based. When it comes to the setup of my mouse and mouse pad, it's very simple. I have a 50 by 50 centimeter mouse pad. It's quite large and I like to drape it over the end of the table. This is actually very important to me. I always do this and I always have done this. I hate feeling the edge of the mouse pad on my skin. This basically makes it real smooth, means I can get locked in and it just always feels good. It doesn't matter where I am, up or down, recoil controlling. I'm never having any additional friction from the table. So those were my mouse and keyboard settings. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below and I'll answer them promptly. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. I'll see you guys next time. You guys are the best. Bye-bye.